So the first recipe I'm going to look at is just simply broccoli, cauliflower and potato puree. It has lots of different uses that I'll tell you about as we go along, but the ingredients themselves I've chosen because they are all really handy foods for your child to get a really good taste for. White potatoes are a really good source of vitamin B3, also known as niacin. And niacin is really important to help your body create the hormone serotonin. And serotonin itself is what we call a happy hormone, and it keeps us smiling. So potatoes are good for keeping us all in a good mood. Cauliflower, as well as vitamin C, is a really good source of folic acid. But the superfood, the super ingredient of this recipe is broccoli. Broccoli not only is a good source of vitamin C and folic acid, but it's also really rich in vitamin K, which you need for really good quality blood, but also magnesium and calcium is really important for bones and general development. Broccoli is also thought to have antiviral and antibacterial properties. So when your little one's starting to go to day nursery and picking up those bugs, reach for the broccoli because it really does help boost their immune system. Let's get on with the puree. What I've got here is already washed and prepared white potato, cauliflower and broccoli. And you just simply wash it and put it into smaller florets. If you haven't got a food processor, then you can just grate the potato and chop the cauliflower and broccoli as small as you can. But I'm going to whiz it through this food processor because obviously time's a bit precious for all of us. So with this vegetable puree, we want to make sure that the water's boiling before we put it in. You do that because it actually not only keeps it looking nice and bright in colour, but it actually helps keep the vitamins rather than them being destroyed in the cooking process. Don't worry if you haven't got enough water in there, because you can always boil the kettle and add a little bit more boiling water. I'm going to bring this up to the boil and then down to a simmer. I keep this quite dry because vitamin C is actually a water-soluble vitamin, and therefore the juices that come out of it are where you can find the vitamin C. So by doing it this way, you blitz it in with the water that it's cooking in and keep all of the goodness in as well. I'm going to top this up with a little bit more boiling water. What you're trying to do is make it so the ingredients are just slightly covered, but not swimming in water. So bring it up to the boil and then down to a simmer and leave it simmering for just 10 minutes. The reason we grate the ingredients before we put it in here is because if you put great big florets of broccoli and cauliflower, the outside's really cooked before the inside is, and that's true of any of the ingredients that you might use in a puree at this stage. If you cook great big lumps in, you'll end up overcooked on the outside and undercooked on the inside. There's a good reason I chose this recipe to encourage your children to eat more vegetables. It's not just because it's been found that it's really important that your child gets a taste for vegetables in the early days, but broccoli is a really sweet vegetable, whereas some of the green vegetables tend to have quite a bitterness about them. So for a little one, this has still got a little bit more too much texture in, so what we want to do is just give it another quick blitz with the hand blender. So we'll just take it off the heat so we don't splash ourselves with some hot puree. And you want to pulse it with the hand mixer. You're not trying to make a smooth puree, you're just trying to make it a little bit easier for your little one to cope with. As I'm blending it, I'm just looking to see if there's any larger florets. And I'm going to just have a look with a teaspoon. Now, of course, this is ready to serve to your little one straight away once it's cooled to the right temperature for your baby. But because it's such a useful puree, it really is worth freezing some. And because you could, of course, freeze it into the little ice cube trays, but that you'll need to use quite a lot of cubes now. Your baby's getting a little bit older. So these little containers, which are about 60 grams, are perfect. And as with all purees, you want to allow them to cool a little bit before you put them straight in the freezer. And that's because if you put hot food straight into the freezer, it starts to defrost everything else around it, which obviously isn't what you're trying to do. The other thing I love about these little containers is that you can just warm them up. You can heat them in the microwave or heat them in a pan of boiling water. so you can warm it up that way, and then serve those as the little dippers for your child to dip breadsticks or chicken sticks in. So this is broccoli, cauliflower and potato puree, a great way to get your child towards 5 a day.